Well, here we are in 2020. Those of you who watched my last video, you already know that my year started off in the wrong direction with my drone getting stuck in a tree.
Landing.
And, well, then I had to deal with this. I'm having my wisdom teeth pulled today. Over the next few months, I have several appointments and to have work done on my teeth. And today, they're pulling my wisdom teeth. I absolutely dread going to the dentist. I hate it. Wish me luck. I don't know what it is about the dentist. I'm just super nervous. Well, that was horrible. I can feel my face when I'm with you. Now, I had an upper wisdom tooth pulled a few years back, and it was a piece of cake. I was eating solid food by the end of the night after it happened. This time, though, they pulled my remaining 3 wisdom teeth. And I guess it's because they pulled 3 at one time instead of 1. It absolutely whipped my butt. It hurt so bad and it swole up for probably 2 days. I felt like I had been run over by a truck. Now, it's several days later. The stitches are still in, but the swelling has gone down. I can talk again normally, and I'm just getting back to the point where I can eat regular food again. It was rough. And again, the only reason I could think of why it was so much different was because they pulled 3 instead of just 1. At any rate, today we are starting off our new year, 2020, by looking back at all of the amazing things that we did last year in 2019. The reason that 2019 was the best year ever in my entire life was because we traveled to more places last year than I've ever traveled to in my entire life. So I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna relive the major moments of this last year, 2019, the big trips or big videos that were made. And by the end of this video, you will see the massive endeavor that's ahead of me to be able to make 2020 an even better year than 2019. I mean, we went to so many places, and I didn't even realize how many places we'd actually went to in the 1 year time span until I was preparing to make this video. So we started out 2019 fresh off a huge trip over to Seattle and Portland, Oregon. We made that trip at the end of 2018. We come back home. I started off 2019 in Tallahassee, Florida, where I got to live out a lifelong childhood dream of mine. And I got to see multiple, not just one, but multiple screen-used Batmobiles. They were at a car museum in Tallahassee. They had the Batmobile that was screen used in Batman Returns, the screen used Batmobile from Batman Forever, and they had a replica of the Adam West Batmobile from the old TV show Batman. They also had several other items in there that were screen used, like some props from the old TV show. They had the ski boat thing that Batman drove in Batman Returns. And they had costumes that were screen used. If I remember correctly, it was like a penguin and a Catwoman. That was an incredible adventure. Batman has always been a favorite of mine, and to get to see all of the screen used stuff from the history of Batman on screen was amazing. Fresh off of the high of that trip to see the Batmobiles, tragedy struck and a massive E4 tornado ripped through and destroyed the small town where Tim Burton made his classic movie Big Fish. And I'm talking about Wetumpka, Alabama, which is about 5 miles north of my home. A tornado touched down and completely flattened Wetumpka. For the rest of January, I stayed close to home. Going into February, it took us back down into Florida. We were actually at the beach, quite a ways away actually, where I did the filming locations for another one of my favorite movies of all time, The Truman Show. Growing up as a kid, I remember going to Blockbuster Video and Movie Gallery, the two movie rental stores that we have here, and I probably rented The Truman Show. I probably rented it 50 to 100 times and watched it. I loved that movie, and I still do. Right after filming the Truman Show filming locations, we entered into a busy week, for me, at least not for everybody else. February the 10th of last year, Amy and I celebrated our 9-year anniversary. Just a few days later, on the 14th, it was Valentine's Day, as everyone already knows. And then just 2 days after that, on the 16th, it's Amy's birthday. She celebrated her 35th birthday. In 2019, all 3 of those events happened to be on the same exact week. The next day after Amy's birthday, I decided that I wanted to try my luck at a new genre of video for this channel. So little did I know at the time, starting that genre would change this channel for the long run. I ultimately decided to start a true crime series on the channel. The day after Amy's 35th birthday, I found myself back down to Tallahassee, Florida, and I filmed the video Ted Bundy, the Charismatic Killer, right there on the campus of Florida State University, where he killed those co-eds there in their sorority house. By chance though, on my way home from that, I was coming through Marianna, Florida, and I stumbled across some abandoned buildings. I decided to get out, and I picked up my camera and started rolling. Little did I know when I picked up the camera and started rolling that those buildings would turn out to be a little known Florida secret, a dark secret that they had, where young boys were killed, they were beaten, they were raped, and that property was part of the Arthur G. Dozier Florida School for Boys. Some horrific things happened there on that campus. Immediately following the Dozier School for Boys, I decided to make my second true crime video. So at the beginning of March, I posted the video, Chris Watts, The First Timeline. Several days later, and I was working at the Coliseum, and I started getting notification after notification that the views had skyrocketed through the roof. I had no clue what was going on, and it turned out that that topic was just a huge topic, and I had no clue at the time. I just was posting a topic that I thought was interesting anyways, and it turns out everyone else thought it was interesting as well. The success of that first Chris Watts video was short-lived though, because shortly after that video took off, another devastating E4 tornado hit pretty close here to my home and flattened Lee County, Alabama. So bad that even President Donald J. Trump himself flew down here to Alabama to see the destruction of it. After a few more local stories to wrap up March, we went into April, and right at the very beginning of April, Chris Watts gave an updated confession. So the next day I posted an updated video to the first one. That video was titled, Chris Watts, Was Nicole Kessinger Involved? again, little did I know before posting that video would soar further than I ever imagined. Because it was so massive, I immediately hopped on a plane and flew to Frederick, Colorado, where I toured all the locations that were involved in that story where Chris Watts had murdered his pregnant wife and 2 daughters, their house, and the different areas where he claims to have killed her, all of that stuff. And I wound up staying there in Denver for probably a week and a half, which led me to think, I don't know what's in the water there in Denver. There's just been so many tragedies that happened right there in the Denver area, and I got to talk about quite a few of them, like JonBenet Ramsey, the Aurora Theater where that mass shooting happened during the Dark Knight Rises premiere, and the Columbine High School massacre, just to name a few of the videos. There were several more. Once we wrapped up there in Denver, we were able to fly back home, and then May brought a summer. We kicked off our summer of 2019 standing on the pier in Panama City Beach, Florida. While I was there, I started thinking, and I ultimately came to the decision that I had just posted several videos about Chris Watts. I had just gone to Denver, Colorado and filmed all the locations. So me and Amy hit the road and went to North Carolina. We went there for the sole purpose to go there to North Carolina, to their resting place, and pay our respects. And I never mentioned this before, but after I shut the cameras off that day, we probably spent another hour there at the cemetery. I was kneeling down on the ground, bawling my eyes out because of how emotional it was, I guess, because I had been to the location where he killed them, and now I was standing there in front of their resting place. It just, the emotions hit me all at one time, and that was tough. That night, after we had left the cemetery, we were in our hotel, and I started looking at a map, and I realized that I was really close to Wilmington, North Carolina, which is now like the Hollywood of the East Coast. It's a major movie filming city. So I took the opportunity to go over to Wilmington so I could do the filming locations for another one of my favorite videos of all time, and I am talking about Iron Man 3. An important thing to note, while I was in the middle of filming the filming locations for Iron Man 3, I was notified that the channel hit a major milestone and we passed 7,000 subscribers while I was there doing that video. Shortly after doing the Iron Man video, I had plans for like almost a whole nother week worth of videos I was going to do there, but ultimately a family emergency cut that trip short and we had to come home to take care of it. By the end of May, we were back at home from North Carolina, and we were celebrating Memorial Day with my family at Six Flags over Georgia. Shortly after leaving Six Flags, I had an epiphany, and I decided that I wanted to kind of sort of finish up that North Carolina road trip, but I was going to change what we actually did. But I wanted it to be huge. I wanted it to be big league. So a week later, just after the 1st of June, me, Amy, and both of our children, we hit the road on a massive road trip that carried us from our home here in Montgomery to Savannah, Georgia, which is kind of sort of where we actually started at. We drove all the way up the coastline, not taking interstates or anything, just driving up the coastline from Savannah, Georgia to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, stopping wherever we wanted to stop, doing whatever attractions that we wanted to do. We got to see a whole lot of the East Coast. We got to do a whole lot on the East Coast. But ultimately, half of our plans had to be canceled due to bad weather. It rained on us and rained on us and rained on us every day. It was miserable. We wound up having to skip several big cities that we definitely wanted to see, like Charleston, and we wound up spending extra time in Myrtle Beach because it wasn't raining there so much. The whole time we were on that trip, I was making one specific video, and I didn't announce it to the world at the time, but the movie Forrest Gump, one of my all-time favorite movies. I mean, I have not met a person yet that does not like the movie Forrest Gump. A lot of it was filmed between Savannah, Georgia and Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and we hit all of those spots. Each one of those locations was at least 100 miles away from each other. I mean, it was ridiculous how spread out they were, and I can only imagine how long it took them to film. It was a massive undertaking, and at the end of that trip, I posted a video that I'm very proud of, the filming locations for the movie Forrest Gump. It's one of my favorite videos that I have ever made. After we wrapped up that trip there in Myrtle Beach, we left, started heading back home. Me and my family and a good friend of mine named Carolina Tony, we got to experience a good old-fashioned American roadside attraction in Pedro's south of the border roadside attraction. We made our way back home, and I wrapped up the rest of the month of June just telling some more local stories, and then we hit July. On July the 1st, we hit another major milestone on the channel, and we passed 9,000 subscribers. I never imagined that I would be at 9,000 subscribers. I wanted to be there. I wanted to be at millions of subscribers, but we passed 9,000 subscribers. Just a couple of days later, on July the 4th, I made a video that I was particularly proud of, where I actually took hot dogs in the shape of a hand, and then I took fireworks and blew up that hot dog shaped hand in a video that I titled How Not to Shoot Fireworks, where I go through several different fireworks and show you what could happen if they were to explode in your hand. I loved making that video, and I had so much fun doing it. Well, it was there at that 4th of July family celebration that we had going on, where my brother came up with an idea. Immediately following that 4th of July weekend, just me and my brother, we hit the road on another road trip down to Orlando, Florida. He and I spent a week and a half at Universal Studios in Orlando, and man, that was fun. I don't think me and my brother had ever done anything like that together. Now, truth be told, I never said this in those videos. The only reason we went was because Universal had just opened their newest attraction, and it was part of the wizarding world of Harry Potter, and it was the roller coaster Hagrid's Magical Motorbike Adventure. That was the only reason we went, was just to ride that roller coaster, Hagrid's, and we got to ride it a couple of times, even with the massive lines. And that roller coaster is my favorite roller coaster that I've ever been on in my entire life, and I've been on a lot of coasters all over the country. That one is my favorite. I absolutely mean it. It was incredible, and if you have the means to do it, I definitely recommend you go down to Orlando and you ride Hagrid's Magical Motorbike Adventure. It is the roller coaster ride of a lifetime. While my brother and I were there at Universal Studios, we hit another milestone. We hit the biggest milestone for this channel to date. We passed 10,000 subscribers. That was huge, absolutely incredible. And once we had wrapped up our week and a half at Universal Studios before we left, I was able to stop by the location of one of America's worst mass shootings, and I am talking about the Pulse nightclub there in Orlando. So we wrapped up July and went into August. August brought with it an end to the summer. I ended the summer of 2019 standing in the exact same spot where I had kicked it off just 3 months prior in May, standing on the pier in Panama City Beach in the exact same location. And you know, everybody was already gloomy because the summer was ending, kids were having to go back to school, cooler weather was getting ready to start rolling in, and we hit the 1-year anniversary of the murders of Shanann Watts, Cece, Bella, and Nico, which weighed heavy on everyone. After that, I spent the entirety of September telling stories from here in Alabama. I made videos on murders, on serial killers, disappearances, just all kind of stories that I thought you guys would find fascinating from here in Alabama. And I chose to stay local in September because I knew that October was going to be big. Not only did October bring about my 35th birthday, which, truth be told, now that it's all said and done, it's a very disappointing day, as a matter of fact. You know, I'm not going to say why it was disappointing, but it was. Nevertheless, we once again hopped on a plane, but this time we landed in Las Vegas, Nevada. Never been there before. It was the first time we had ever gotten to experience that. For more than a week, we toured Las Vegas, checking out the old Las Vegas Strip, which is now the Fremont Experience, and then checking out the new Las Vegas Strip, which is where all your popular casinos are now, like the Luxor and the Mandalay Bay. We also got to visit Area 51, which was incredible because the military had drones spying on us while we were there. We got to see the Grand Canyon, we got to see the Hoover Dam, all of these places I never imagined that I would ever get to see. And then we got to go to Los Angeles, California. We got to experience Hollywood Boulevard. We got to check out the Hollywood sign. And then we got to spend the evening at a Halloween-themed event called Dark Harbor, which was on one of the Titanic sister ships, the Queen Mary there in Long Beach, with my good friend Adam the Woo. And man, that trip was the trip of a lifetime, and it is a trip that I will never forget. We had so much fun. We got to see so many new things, and truth be told, I can't wait to go back. Once we had wrapped up there in Las Vegas and Los Angeles, we come back home for Halloween, and then it seemed like everything just fell apart for me. At the beginning of November, Amy's assignment with her company ended, and she was out of work for a short while. At the same time, for a multitude of different reasons, her stress levels were through the roof, and she decided that she wanted to have a separation from me. So she left our home here in Montgomery and moved in with her mom about 2 hours away. That was absolutely devastating for me, and I really had a hard time with that. Now, if you saw my most recent video, then you know things are better. It's not back to normal, but we are working on things, and they are getting better. But then November just kept getting worse, and my hometown right here by my house saw 2 murders take over the national headlines, and I am talking about the murders of Anaya Blanchard and the murder of the Lowndes County Sheriff Big John Williams, and I documented those 2 murders right after they happened. So I was hoping and I was praying that December would be a better month, and for the most part it was. Alabama here celebrated its 200th birthday, and then Christmas brought my family, who was kind of torn, it brought us back together a little bit. It brought us all just a little bit closer. And well, that brings us back to present day right now, where 2020 has not started off that great for me. Again, if you saw my last video, you know my drone got stuck in a tree, and Amy's brother had to climb this 40-50 foot tree to get it down. And then having my teeth pulled, which put me out of commission for a few days. It's just not been good so far for me. I am still very optimistic about what 2020 has in store for us. I have tons of new stories that I'm going to tell, a notebook full where I've been researching stories that I think you would all find interesting, from not just here in my hometown, but all over the country. And I know somehow, some way, we are going to make 2020 better than 2019 was. I really hope you enjoyed this look back at the amazing year that we had in 2019. That is going to do it. We've caught up to present day. I want to thank you all so much for watching. You guys don't know how much it means to me that you watch these videos. Heck, even if you don't watch them and you just turn them on and walk away from your phone or computer just to let them run, thank you so much. Now that we have gotten past the first of the year blues, I know that I have a show to work at the Coliseum tomorrow. It's our first show of the year, and then we're going to get into storytelling. At any rate, thank you all so much. I will see you again the day after tomorrow. I hope you all have a great day. Please stay safe and stay warm. Happy New Year, everyone.